here's where we're going to get into some real deep stuff. And not a lot of people actually want to talk about this stuff, guys. So thank you for being here tonight. Buckle up. This is not pretty. It's important to talk about. Number 6, dispense diagnoses liberally. Nothing says progress like a fresh diagnosis, or 2, or 3, hell, maybe even 4 or 5. Anxiety, depression, OCD, adjustment disorder. Is this sounding familiar for you and your kids? ADHD, ADD, because the psychologically abusive parent flies under the radar. So their child is often left wondering, what's wrong with me? And the therapist, not recognizing that the child has a psychologically abusive parent, diagnoses the child with a whole bunch of crap they don't actually have. For instance, I was diagnosed first with anxiety and childhood depression, and then with OCD. The list just kept on going for 20 years. And every new therapist I went to seemed to want to add their own label, like Pokemon cards of pathology. Except I'm a person. This is my life. And each of those diagnoses stuck, not only on a medical record, but in my psyche. Meanwhile, not one of them said, hey, maybe the problem isn't you. Maybe it's that your mom has been psychologically harming you, destroying your relationship with your dad, destroying your self-esteem, destroying your mental health. And I do get it. Parents and therapists want to help their children succeed. But as Abigail Schreier so rightly explains, obtaining a diagnosis for your kid is not a neutral act. It's not nothing for a kid to grow up believing that there's something wrong with their brain. Even mental health professionals are more likely to interpret ordinary patient behavior as pathological if they are briefed on a patient's diagnosis. End quote. I want to repeat that for emphasis because this is so close to home for me. It is not nothing for a kid to grow up believing there's something wrong with their brain. It's not nothing. It's not a neutral act to obtain a diagnosis for your kid. While identifying significant problems is often the right thing to do, if your child actually has legitimate problems that can be diagnosed as such, doctor shopping and pursuing a diagnosis at any cost might truly saddle your child with a new negative understanding of themselves. If this is resonating, please let me know. This is such a common situation I've heard from people who've been through it. It's almost impossible, it seems, to go through this family dynamic and to come out of it without diagnoses. It really seems that way for the child. And yeah, I want to repeat that diagnoses can be useful. They can be useful. There are things out there that children suffer with, absolutely. But diagnoses are only useful when it leads to clarity and healing, when it leads to treatment that actually treats them. Otherwise, it is just a participation trophy for suffering. And I will die on that hill. Now, number 7. So your kid is given a diagnosis. This might bring some parents relief, but more often than not, it's the beginning of a terrifying pipeline. I want to ask you guys in the live chat, please let me know. What do you think comes next after the diagnoses? I'm actually curious. Let me know, guys. Let me know in the live chat. What do you think is the next step on the pipeline after the diagnosis phase? I'll wait. What do you think comes next? Pills. Yeah, okay. Yeah, pills. We got one person saying pills, Debbie. Let's see what other people think. What's next? You think it's pills? If you guess medication, you're the winner. Congratulations. You see, because after a diagnosis, then comes medication. Yeah, and more money too. But medication, the chemical solution to emotional sabotage. After the label comes the pill. This was my life for 20 years. This is not just my life, by the way. This is the life of millions of children worldwide. That's why I'm doing this. I was 12 when I got my first prescription, an SSRI. And was I able to know what that was? Did I know why I was being put on it? Did I know the side effects, the ramifications, the long-term effects it would have on my life? Did I even know what the heck an SSRI was? Absolutely not. Was I able to give informed consent? No. Did I need this pill? No. But nothing says treat the family system like chemically muting the child caught in the middle. In her book, Schreier states, altering your child's brain chemistry is about as profound a decision as you will ever make as a parent. This should make you angry, guys. It's making me angry. It should make you angry. She says, but for many child psychiatrists and far too many pediatricians, it involves little more than a signature in tearing off a sheet gummed to a prescription pad. I want to repeat that first line. Altering your child's brain chemistry is about a profound a decision as you will ever make as a parent. It's not nothing to change your child's brain chemistry while they are actively developing. Medications numb the child's sadness. It numbs their anxiety, but they also numb everything else. When I was put on medication, I wasn't getting better. I maybe was getting quieter, easier, more compliant. So instead of encouraging the child to learn to deal with pain and suffering and life's hardships, or to develop the capacity for emotional regulation, many parents and therapists are quicker to push pills. Not to mention the many morbid side effects of such psychiatric medication imposed on adolescents or teenagers who are already suffering. Weight gain, insomnia, nausea, fatigue, jitteriness, a risk of addiction, and of course, brutal withdrawal down the line. But as Abigail Schreier points out, possibly the grimmest risk, and I want everybody to listen real carefully for this. Listen to, when I read this, I got physically sick at the library. Possibly the grimmest risk of antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, and stimulants is the primary effect of the drug themselves. Placing a young person in a medicated state while he's still getting used to the feel and fit of his or her own skin, making him feel less like himself, blocking him from ever feeling the thrill of unmedicated cognitive sharpness, the sting of righteous fury, compelling him to play remote spectator in his own life. You're just starting to understand what the world is, who you are, and you're forced to do it in a medicated state of being. When you start a child on meds, you risk numbing them at the very moment he or she needs to be taking risks, to be celebrating, to be feeling strong emotions, to be learning how to handle the ups and downs of life. Also, once you are put on the pathway of medication, it's often very hard to ever get off. But I mean, maybe the psychologically abusive parent just doesn't even care about that. Maybe they prefer their child to be essentially a little zombie. Maybe they like their child having tons of problems so they can be the hero and get tons of accolades and sympathy for having, such a messed up kid, such a sick kid. Maybe that way their child won't ask them the difficult questions. Maybe that way their child will never realize they're living in a delusion. Mom, listen, medication can save lives. We all know that, but it cannot fix abuse. Do not medicate kids into silence when what they really need is reality, the truth, and their voice.